Let's jump right in. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the frankly wild and definitely surprising science of protein. Because it turns out hitting those daily dietary goals, it's way more complicated than just piling extra meat onto your plate. We're going to see why the math on the nutrition labels you trust might actually be leading you slightly astray. Okay, so set the scene for a second. You just got your blood tests back, and your doctor drops the classic line, "You need more high-quality protein. Cut back on the carbs." Sounds super straightforward, right? Well, not exactly. Figuring out how to actually put that on a plate without accidentally consuming a mountain of extra calories is where things get really, really tricky. Where are you even supposed to start? So the absolute golden rule, the baseline you gotta remember, is actually pretty simple. Your body needs 1 gram of protein every single day for every kilogram of your body weight. That means if you weigh 50 kilograms, you need 50 grams of protein daily. Boom. Easy enough math. But when you try to apply that math to actual groceries, it is a massive wake-up call. If you're getting your protein entirely from meat, which gives you roughly 20 grams of protein per 100 grams of weight, that 50-kilogram person has to eat a quarter-kilo steak, a full 250 grams every single day. Fish, it's a bit denser, but you still need 200 grams. And eggs, well, they only pack about 6 grams each. So even if you scramble up 3 of them for breakfast, giving you 18 grams, you'd still need to eat a solid 150 grams of meat just to hit that daily baseline. Now, you might be thinking, hey, I'll just drink more milk. Well, hold on a second, because milk is kind of a trap. It's mostly water, clocking in at only 3 grams of protein per 100 grams. You'd have to chug over 200 grams of milk just to equal 1 single egg. Plus, it is loaded with lactose, which means unwanted carbs. But cheese is a whole different story. Through the magic of the fermentation process, those lactose carbs are basically stripped away. The water is removed, and you're left with this incredibly dense protein powerhouse, boasting over 20 grams per 100 grams. The big takeaway here is that leaning on your everyday starchy staples for a protein fix is an absolute dead end. White rice, potatoes, they've got incredibly low protein and just sky-high carbohydrates. Bread does have roughly 3 times the protein of white rice, sure, but it's super fattening, completely unbalanced, and lacks the essential vitamins, minerals, and fiber you actually need. Loading up on these isn't going to fix your protein deficit. It's just going to pack on empty weight. All right, moving right along to layer 2, the quality trap and the wooden barrel. Because it's not just about the raw grams you're eating. We have to talk about quality, which scientists measure using an amino acid score. Think of your 9 essential amino acids, the ones your body absolutely cannot make on its own, like the wooden staves of a barrel. If you try to fill that barrel with water, which represents your body building actual protein, the water is always going to leak out from the absolute shortest stave. In biology, that shortest plank is what we call the first limiting amino acid. Let's put it another way using a supply chain analogy, which I absolutely love. Imagine you're running a massive car factory. You've got enough steering wheels, engines, and batteries to build 1,000,000 cars. But there's a shortage, and you only have circuit boards for 500,000. How many cars can you actually roll off the lot? Just 500,000. It doesn't matter how many extra steering wheels you have sitting around. Your body works the exact same way. If you have just one crucial amino acid, your body's entire protein synthesis is cut right in half along with it. And when you look at the real-world scores, it's pretty wild. Animal proteins like chicken and eggs plus soy hit a flawless score of 100. Their barrel staves are perfectly even. But a potato? For an adult, it scores a measly 68 because it's leaking from a missing building block called methionine. White rice falls to a 65 because it's desperate for lysine. You could literally eat rice all day long, but your body can only use a fraction of it because that lysine stave is just too short. Okay, so here's a fun little trick question for you based on this data. If a food scores a perfect 100, does that guarantee it's a perfect food you should be eating all the time? You might be surprised, but the answer is a hard no. The score only cares about the ratio, not the total volume. Get this, asparagus has a flawless amino acid score of 100, but it has virtually 0 total protein. Or think about it like this. You could take a glass of milk, water it down 10 times, and it would still technically score a 100. But is it going to nourish you? No way. A perfect score is basically meaningless if the total quantity of protein isn't there to back it up. Which leads us perfectly into layer 3. Will your body actually absorb it? Let's track the actual biological journey from your mouth down to your cells. Even if you eat a massive volume of perfect protein, you're still not totally in the clear. See, for years, the World Health Organization used this metric called PDCAS. They'd measure what went into your mouth and basically subtract what ended up in your biological waste. But scientists realized this math was deeply flawed. Why? Because sneaky little gut bacteria in your large intestine were actually eating the unabsorbed protein evidence. So in 2013, they rolled out a vastly superior standard called DIAS, which measures true digestible amino acids in the small intestine, long before those bacteria can crash the party. Now, to get the absolute truth about this digestion, scientists obviously couldn't just hook tubes up to humans all day. Instead, they use growing pigs since their digestive systems mirror our own almost perfectly. They place a tiny tube right at the terminal ileum, which is the very end of the small intestine, to extract and measure exactly what the body actually absorbed. It's a brilliant way to completely bypass those hungry gut bacteria. And the results from this super strict test totally upend the biological hierarchy of our food. Animal products like chicken and milk, they actually blast past 100% absorption efficiency. They are wildly nourishing. Soy holds really strong at about 90%. But the grains, wow. Wheat and rice drop down to just 60% absorption. And corn plummets to a heartbreaking 40% because it severely lacks lysine and tryptophan. You could eat a mountain of corn, and more than half of the protein is literally just passing straight through you. And it breaks my heart to say it, but even beloved snacks like peanuts betray us under this microscope. They seem awesome because they pack a huge total volume of protein, but they severely lack methionine and cysteine. Because those barrel staves are just too short, your body simply cannot synthesize it, dragging their true absorption right down to about half of what you'd get from meat or eggs. It's wild to think how a huge chunk of what we eat is just entirely wasted. Okay, let's wrap this up with layer 4, the ultimate protein strategy. So how do we actually hack this biological system without busting out a calculator at every single meal? The cheat code is this beautiful dietary synergy called complementary action. Remember how white rice comes short on lysine and soy is slightly short on methionine? Eaten totally alone, they're super inefficient. But pair them together, like a classic delicious bowl of natto over rice, and they literally cover each other's blind spots. The excess in one fills the gap in the other, and boom, you've magically created a perfectly complete barrel of amino acids right in your stomach. So, to pull this whole explainer together, here are your everyday cheat codes. Number 1, aim for that baseline of 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. Number 2, prioritize highly absorbable animal proteins. Maybe swap that sugary glass of milk for some nutrient-dense cheese. Number 3, and I love this pro tip, eat your eggs delightfully soft-boiled, because the data shows that gives you much better biological absorption than if they're raw or hard-boiled. Number 4, dodge those high-carb traps pretending to be protein. And finally, if you rely on plant proteins, pair them up smartly, like beans and rice to unlock that complementary magic. I want to leave you with this one final thought. Now that you know a perfect nutritional score on paper can sometimes be a total biological illusion, and that your body treats a steak wildly differently than a handful of peanuts, are you ever going to look at your dinner plate the exact same way again? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and stay curious.